So why is it important that we lay groundwork before we start working on your LinkedIn profile? Well, it's very hard for us to start cutting and smushing together things on LinkedIn without you knowing what you want to project. And if you've never asked yourself this question before, you may be totally clueless. You may be feeling nervous about it, and that's okay. But the groundwork we're going to lay is going to allow you to get to know who you really are so that we can tailor your profile to attract your ideal career. Why are we doing this? Why are we tailoring? A lot of people make the mistake on LinkedIn of trying to create this very broad LinkedIn profile. And on screen now, I'm going to pull up a very broad LinkedIn profile for you. To be respectful of other LinkedIn users, instead of showing you a live profile, I've taken screenshots of different profiles that are broad in different ways. I'm showing you this because I want you to understand what it looks like to not be targeting something intentionally and what it looks like to specifically and intentionally target the career and target the job that you want. So the first thing I have pulled up on screen here is what I'm calling my first example of a broad cover and headline. We are going to be talking about your initial impression on LinkedIn, and we're talking about this package of how the cover photo, which is here, and the profile, the name, and the headline all come together to make an impression. This is what it looks like if you don't use your cover photo and profile photo strategically or use one at all. So this example is someone who's not using either photo. And now what I want you to look at now is the headline, which says actively looking for internship opportunities in marketing analytics, marketing research, digital marketing, and social media marketing. So what I want to point out is although this person is very clearly targeting opportunities in the marketing field, we see nothing about them that influences us or gives us confidence that they would excel in this area. So as a recruiter, as someone who's hiring, this would be an individual that I overlook because they've not put effort into things that could represent marketing on their own profile. This is an example of being too broad. All right, let's move to this next one. I like this example because it's someone who's put in a little bit of effort, but they've intentionally stayed very high level. So what we've got here is an individual who's used their profile photo, but they've not used a cover photo. And they have a neat headline, which just says, "Helping Businesses Grow Since 2001." This headline is so broad. It doesn't tell us how this person helps businesses grow. It doesn't tell us what kind of businesses she or he helps grow. It just tells us that they've been doing this for many years, for 20 years. So you would think with 20 years of experience, there would be enough experience under this person's belt for them to talk a little bit about. It just tells us that they've been doing this for many years, for 20 years. So you would think with 20 years of experience, there would be enough experience under this person's belt for them to talk a little bit about what their niche is, what their business niche is. But we just don't see it. It's just very general and very broad. All right, and then if we scroll down their profile, we're going to take a quick look at their experience, and we can see here that they've been incredibly high level with their experience. They've only included the past 4 years of experience, which only includes 2 positions. And this is an issue because if they tell us in their headline they've been working for 20 years, and we only see the past 4 years of experience, we're kind of left scratching our heads with, well, where is the rest of that experience and why is this so high level? We just don't get enough from this individual. And I get the feeling that they're trying to they're trying to intentionally be high level and intentionally be broad so as to not box themselves into any kind of niche or direction. This next example, I actually had to zoom out so it's a little bit smaller. This next example is someone who's been too broad with their experience, and this is broad in a different respect. And you can see here, if you're looking at the image, we have 7 different job experiences that this person has listed. And the oldest one is from 2018. So that's just in the last few years that this person has accumulated 7 jobs. Okay. The first one is a lifeguard. And when I say first, I mean the oldest. The second is the retail associate. Then we have an internship. Then we have construction laborer. Then we have another internship. And then we have a recruiting operations analyst position. And then we have a new position, which is a co-founder and host of a creative project that he or she is working on. So this is broad in a different respect because they have provided us so much information about their work history. But it's broad because they have not omitted or edited things to show us that they are moving in a specific direction, right? So we see lifeguard, retail associate, intern with a wealth advisory group, construction laborer, finance intern with another finance group, recruiting, and co-founder and host. What needs to be done here is the lifeguard and retail associate positions need to be dropped. And these internships are indicative of me that this person is trying to get into finance. So they really need to be shaping this experience to be more directed towards finance and not including so much of this irrelevant work history. So we don't want to include work history that does not speak to or support the direction we're headed in. So this is a great example of oversharing in an attempt to show that you're willing to do anything, or oversharing in an attempt to show just show that you have work history. And that's not necessarily what we need to be doing on LinkedIn. We want to tell a story with our experience, and we want that story to represent progression in a specific career field type or a career industry type. We don't want to show progression of job hopping, that I tried this and then I dabbled in this and I dabbled in that, especially if you spent less than 6 months at an organization. You definitely need to be second guessing whether or not you need to even include it on your LinkedIn. And that's the same with your resume. Too much information is too broad. Okay, now we're going to take a look at 2 sets of skills. So this is from Profile A and the next one will be from Profile B. But the first thing that I want to point out here is this is a screenshot of a profile who had a lot of skills listed in their skills and endorsements section. And so let's take a look at just the industry knowledge portion, for example. So I'm going to teach you in this course to narrow these down to a certain amount of skills. You're going to hear me use the number 5 in an upcoming lesson. And I want to point out why. If we're talking about a broad profile, this is a great example. Industry knowledge here has over 16 different skills listed under industry knowledge, okay? That does not make you look like an expert in any particular area. So let's just review these 16 together. Operations management, data management, database administration, event planning, Army, volunteer recruiting, community outreach, recruiting, military, data entry, human resources, social media, volunteering, policy, Navy, and program management. Automatically, a great way to omit skills is from this person's profile is to remove anything that has the word volunteer or volunteering in it. So I would take those 2 out immediately. A couple of other things that I'm noticing here is we have military listed. So I don't think that it's actually relevant to list Navy and Army without, in addition to listing military, because military is kind of an all-encompassing. So if we want to indicate that we are familiar with the military, that we know how it functions, and we're familiar working with the military community, we can do that without saying Army and Navy. So we can omit skills that are just further adding to the clutter, but still say the same thing with a stronger, more comprehensive vocabulary word, okay? So just because we're pulling or pruning skills out of this section does not necessarily mean that we're saying less about you. So this is a great example of someone who thought, oh, let me just think of every word that I can think of that describes this specific area and let me throw it in. But in reality, what we want to do is be short and concise. If we are short and concise, someone can take a quick look and read in 3 to 5 words what our industry knowledge expertise is. Let's take a look at the next set of endorsements and skills. All right, this is my next example of the skills section being too broad. And what I want to show here is this person has included things that they enjoy in their spare time or that they are good at. So for example, we're seeing dogs here, we're seeing crocheting and knitting appear here, which are all fantastic and nice things to talk about in a personal conversation with a potential hiring manager if you're getting to know them on a personal level. Those are things that you might want to bring up, but it's not something that you want to include on your LinkedIn profile unless you're trying to go work for a company who specializes in dogs or dog treats, or unless you're trying to work for a company who specializes in crocheting and knitting products. That's when that might be relevant for you. But in this context, we're going too broad and we're taking up space on this profile where we should be providing relevant career data. And instead of providing relevant career data, we're providing soft, irrelevant data. All right, and let's also take a look at this interpersonal skills section on this example because we're seeing a lot of skills here. One thing that I'd like to point out is we're seeing time management, organization skills. We're also seeing multitasking populate. So these are 3 different ways of saying I am good with managing and organizing my time. So instead of saying these 3 different things and being so broad with these skills and trying to think of every way to say the same thing, we would want to pick the most common way to say this. And in my opinion, looking at LinkedIn and looking at other LinkedIn profiles, I think you could say all of this just by stating time management and omitting organization skills and multitasking. Most LinkedIn profiles look like this. They're sparse, they're broad. The person who created this profile likely created it so that they did not pigeonhole themselves into a particular field or job title because they wanted to be seen as someone who could potentially adapt to any position. What's wrong with this? Being able to adapt to any position puts you in a position of desperation. It makes you look like, I'll take anything that you can give me. I'm in need of work that badly. That's not the kind of image we want to bring to LinkedIn. We want to present ourselves as an expert in our field. We want the employer to look at us and think, I will give you any job you want at my company. I need you that badly. So we need to flip the script, and having a very undefined LinkedIn profile is not the position of advantage. Having a very tailored profile puts you in the seat of advantage. So that's how you can see that a defined profile is going to lead you to more success and more interviews than an undefined profile. So how do we go from undefined, which is where most of us are starting, to a tailored, polished, confident LinkedIn profile? It's super easy. You need to know 4 things about yourself. And before I pull these up, I'm telling you right now, I am giving you exercises to identify what these things are, so do not be overwhelmed. We're going to have a lot of fun working through this together. Here are the 4 items. Number 1, you need to know your core values. Number 2, you need to know what you're good at. Number 3, you need to know what job you want. And number 4, you need to know who you most want to help. You may not know the answers to all of these right now. You may be feeling butterflies about even approaching the topic because it's possible that no one has ever worked with you or you've never worked with yourself to sit down and figure out what the answers are to these 4 questions. And that's totally fine. We're doing it now, and we're going to have a lot of fun doing it. In fact, I thought the best way for us to do this was to work with one of my coworkers, Michelle Corbett, and we're going to bring her on screen in just a minute. Actually, we're going to shift to a Zoom meeting with Michelle so we can work through these exercises together.